Welcome to the Hall Pass Summer School. I'm Brighton Fears.
I'm Gage Creaky, and today we have the guest Todd Hagemann.
Perfect.
Before we get started, I guess just kind of give us some background on kind of what you do.
Yeah, sure. In 2003, I started Summit Media, what is now Summit Media Solutions. It was a print company at the time, and we grew quickly to 53 employees and about $5.3 million. And today we're a digital web consulting firm. And so we fulfill services for really small to small, medium-sized businesses. And really just try to help them see a straight way through what is very confusing, complex, and very demanding space, no doubt.
I mean, that perfectly transitioned to why did you want to start the company? What inspired you to?
The company 23 years ago, that's a different company than I have now.
Specifically Summit Media Solutions.
Yeah, Summit grew out of an evolution of our industry. So when we're running $5.3 million of revenue through print media, don't need to talk too much about that, right?
Yeah.
Who does that anymore? What is that? That 5.3 million became a devalued proposition. So it took us 5 years to watch that revenue decline, and out of that we were building an organization to have web competencies. But when you're operating a company, you've got to your primary deal is you've got a cash flow, right? Mm-hmm. So we're watching our sales go down because our industry is going away, and that's our cash flow. That's like you're running out of gas on a road trip, right? Yeah. It's not great. And so out of that, we did it more out of a necessity that we felt we had to adopt digital competencies. And it was what was really very difficult was introduce those into, as I've been mentioning, another model. Then as we grew, we didn't want to be just selling websites and selling SEO and selling the services. We realized that our real value was in helping small business and business owners who are busy running their companies to see a road they knew nothing about. So we went out and said, hey, we're going to be the subject matter experts, and we're going to guide you guys. We're going to take on the consultative role. And our job was then more to ask them, kind of like what you asked me, is why'd you start this business? Right? What's the business model look like, and what's your role within that, and how do we straighten out this crooked road, this very difficult thing for you?
Yeah.
With all the web competencies. So that's what has us where we are today. How do we help small business?
I like it.
So you've been in the media business since 2003, starting with print and then pivoting to digital. What was the key to successfully making that transition? And looking ahead, what do you think will be the next big shift in media marketing that businesses need to prepare for?
Okay, I want to make sure I answer succinctly. So wind me back about halfway through your question and just give that to me again.
Right. So you've been in the media business since 2003, starting with print and pivoting to digital. What was the key to successfully making that transition?
Team. No doubt about it. Did I say team? We had 53 employees. We went down to about 7 or 8. So it was very painful and it was very difficult. But making the pivot, it was really about the team. Now, we didn't know if we could make it. So I used to use the analogy, if you could see a plane with the engines on fire, we were handing donuts and juice boxes to people and telling them to be calm. That was our employees. And they're either leaving or we're having to let them go. But it was the key, if I'm on point with your question, was a handful of people that just hung on to the belief that we were heading the right direction and could see the vision of where we needed to go, because it got sketchy. I mean, to go from 5.3 million down to just under 1 million, we were burning a lot of fuel, and we did level the plane out, and then we took back off again. So it was absolutely those guys. They were just tigers. They hung in there, and they believed in the vision.
Okay.
And now, looking ahead, what do you think will be the next big shift in media marketing that businesses need to prepare for?
Oh, you heard the words AI, or the letters AI. 110%. We're at and when I say this, and we're an at-risk industry, meaning anything web, anything that can be produced, and that's content. That would be anything that has a lot of sophistication, a lot of numbers, a lot of analytics, and a lot of people involved right now, which is our entire business model is how are we going to introduce AI into first to build our own internal competencies from the things that I mentioned, and to include, here's a big one, is workflow. So we have an amazing tech partnership with a long-standing vendor partner of ours. They're actually the largest web consulting, or not consulting, but software dev team in Canada. So they're huge. We met these guys when they were, there were 7 of them. Now they have thousands of clients. And we're one of 20 within those thousands of people that work on. We were just asked last week, as a matter of fact, to join what they call their fast track team, and we'll be going to Canada to set with the investment team, the owners, and the dev team. So AI, 100%. It's going to be very complex. Again, there's that word, and it's going to be very demanding. But we need to morph the business model over to use the AI tools to help us be better marketers, and then ultimately really be much more competent on how to weave together back-end operations for companies using AI.
And AI it can be really controversial too. Some aspects, of course.
Yeah, controversial. Like I was going to say, how?
Yes.
Like it's scary for the people that we're seeing. They're like, yeah, they know they need to do something because the word's crashing on them, but they really have no idea. So it's creepy.
Careful with it.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it.
Okay. You've been running this business for 20 years. What's your philosophy when it comes to marketing and building a brand? Or is there a particular principle or strategy that you go by?
Yeah, consistency. First you have to know your audience. I mean, 100%. You've got to know have the demographics down in as much detail as you can. Know your audience, your target audience, and open it up just a little bit, because you've got to get volume of eyes or ears on your brand. But branding is the slow game. There's 2 things that come to mind. There's needs-based advertising, then there's want-based advertising. A brand is not a logo. A brand is how we make our clients feel, right? So that's a big statement that I made there. It's probably a little contrary to what you normally hear, but branding is an emotion. That's what compels people to want to do business with you. That they're meaning our target audience, they believe that we know their problem, and we have to make it personal. So we're making that personal connection, and then we anchor it to a logo. But really, at the baseline, it's an experience. Know your people, know what they want, know what their problem is, and then be able to speak to that over a long period of time. So you become that subject matter expert, and they feel confident, or not comfortable, but confident. Then they begin to feel comfortable grabbing their wallets, right, and spending money with us, or investing money is a better way to put it.
So it kind of builds the trust for them.
Oh, bingo! It's all about the trust word.
Okay.
Yeah, It really, there's a lot of psychology in this, and when you peel it back at the higher levels of marketing, and we'll use branding was the word that you used. Branding is that experience, and it's all about building some level of trust. And the first one of those is hope, right? It's a maybe. We want to touch that interpersonal thread that says, these guys seem to know what they want. They seem to be competent, or not what they want, but know what we want, and they seem competent. So I think maybe, right? That's pretty slim, but it's hope. I think maybe they can help, and they'll be willing to take a shot, give us a shot. Now we really have to pour on the branding, right? To build that trust. And the more that we enable them to trust us, we've really got something long-term. We've got a long-term client. The value in what we're doing for them goes up, the meaning goes up, and guess what happens? The money comes.
Yeah.
So that's our MO. That's how we roll. Good question, though.
So what's the biggest challenge you face building a media business in a place like Kearney?
I would say in a place like anybody, or anywhere, it would be, again, talent. The people who are willing to, like you guys. So maybe one time you come forward for me. I hope this is a good place.
Yeah.
Right? Did I get that right? I hope this is what I hope it to be, and it's blurry. But the biggest challenge, I think that was the question, right? The biggest challenge that we have is not attracting talent, but knowing, gosh, it sounds like branding again. We need to know who it is that's going to be most probable and becoming a success. So we hire to values. And what we've learned is if we put job posting out, this is what we do and we need you to do it, people come in and they punch the clock and they push the buttons and then they check out. Right? If we can get in, like if you wanted to come and work at my place, right, in our business, ultimately, I'm interviewing you on behalf of the clients that we have, right? So there's another kind of higher level thought. It takes somebody longer in business to know it's not about what we do, it's about how we do what we do. And I can't do all the work, so I need to be really well-defined, if you will, and almost a little bit of caution, more deliberate or more intentional about knowing who I'm looking for, but values is at the heart of it. We can teach you skills, right? So you guys are in school. To me, you're being taught theology, right? Where my seat is practical application. The gap is the who's that's in between, right? Who are you? How do you roll? What do you stand for? What are your standards? Will you compromise? If you will compromise in your own values, you'll compromise on our client values, won't you? So we set the standard up and said we don't want to churn through just average people.
Besides creating Summit Media Solutions, is there a moment or decision that like paved your path?
I think it was just personal ambition, and it was the things I've been saying. It was what can I work for somebody else? And the answer was yes. I was doing very well working for somebody else, but I just had an itch that I can't really realize my own full potential as long as I'm pretty much just signing on to let the circumstances around me define me. So in other words, I had working for somebody else, I believe it has certain limits. Now, it has great benefits. No, I don't remember falling or sleeping or being awake all night wondering if so-and-so was going to show up for work or if we were going to get fired by too many clients or what the markets were going to do. So there's a lot to working for somebody else. But the pivotal thing, I got a scratch that I just needed to give myself a shot and take more ownership and responsibility and say, I'm going to go try this thing. But I walked away from a very well-paying six-figure job and signed on a pretty good chunk of debt with the company that I bought. And then you just have to grind. I didn't pay myself any money for a year and a half. So who does that's your question, right? And then, by the way, I still don't make as much taxable income as I did from the day I resigned from a job working for somebody else 23 years ago. So you can fill in the blanks on that. For me, it was just an itch. I had to give it a shot.
If I may, did you have a backup plan if this somehow didn't work out?
Great question. There's no such thing. Yeah, there really wasn't. To me, a backup plan is planning to fail.
Because then
that says a lot right there, right?
Because then you think you may fail.
Well, no, you have to act, and you really need to have the mental fortitude to say, I will not fail, I cannot fail. I had 2 kids, and not only did I walk away from a six-figure job that was going very well, I mean, it was flying along very well, but I had 2 kids and moved from state to state, signed on $1 million, $1,080,000 personal guarantee for the business that I wasn't buying the business. They would have had anybody sign the thing. So it had to work. There was no exit plan.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that's like dancing with a stick of dynamite. If you're going into something, then you have a contingency plan. You're not serious enough about what it is that you're doing. I tell people just don't do it. Sell out.
So being in the marketing game since 2003, how has the industry changed since you've started? And do any of these changes surprise you?
Radically, and they all surprised me. Nobody saw. To me, when the internet was a slow introduction, so it was a slow disruptor. AI is a meteor. hitting the earth, right? It is. It's both exciting but very disruptive, very suddenly in a very compressed period of time. So we're no mistake from a monetary standpoint, or like my company's standpoint. It's a gold rush. I mean, we have to go and fill a vacuum because anybody can take these tools now, right, and enlist them, and it will fragment the markets. It will fragment the available money that's out there for us to get. So we've got to harness the revenue that we've got, the money running through us, and a lot of those dollars are going to change over. And so we need to have competencies, again, new competencies to people that have been with me for a long time. But they're not new competencies stacked on old ones. They're revolutionary. They're radically different. So yeah, there's a ton of complexity. And if I hadn't already gone from print to web, which again was a very slow burn, I had that 5 years of digital services disrupting us. Right now, this one's pretty much immediate, and we've got to get our heads together really quick. So all things are very challenging.
Say if something has gone tough or went tough throughout building this company, how do you keep your team motivated? How do you keep them going?
Getting their heads and their hearts and their minds and help them realize they've got more potential locked up inside them. So if I can get people to take personal responsibility at a seat, here's my recipe to answer that question. All good things begin, or at least opportunities begin, when you become self-aware, right? I hope you guys will pick something up from this that will help you improve your process. You may pick them up, but it doesn't mean you're doing anything with it. You can ignore it, right? So you're not evolving and changing. I believe if I can get in the heads and the hearts of the people that work with me by giving them the opportunity to be more self-aware that they've got more potential than we realize, and that's everybody in the room, including myself, we can it's like getting the keys to the car. Now you can take ownership of the direction of where you want to point you. And I just looked at this and went, okay, if I help, that's pretty big value add, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're doing here. What if you could take the interpersonal part of this and these values and take them home and have better conversations with your friends or with your husband or your wife or with your kids or with your neighbors? What if you could? Does the quality of life go up?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It goes up, and so does your own personal currency, right? You bring more value to more people. You get more valuable people that recognize you. And at every seat and summit, I just went, all right, we're going to go for personal development, which means personal leadership. And we want to really do away with turnover. And so the way that we work through our community, which means the people that work at Summit, we encourage them to do more work on themselves personally, and we'll win corporately if you begin to get it right. And the last thing I'll say on that is I can't force you to do anything, and I'm not about to try. And most companies, I don't like working for is when somebody tells me what to do. How about you?
It's not the most fun thing.
No, they say, hey, point me in the direction of the cause and give me the tools and give me some direction and education on how to do it and tell me I'm part of something worthwhile. Would you ever leave?
Probably not. If they let me work it out myself.
Right. If you hit the ceiling is when you leave, right? So anyway, there's my answer to that. It's all about culture, for sure, corporate culture.
So with a lot of businesses served, like doing digital marketing and stuff for the businesses, how do you and your team maintain that personal touch with your clients?
Ooh, back to the branding, riff that I gave you guys a little while ago. We really dug in on how do we make things personal in a very impersonal world, and in business you have to scale. So normally when we do a lot of things, right, if you got a big group in a room or at a party, you can only work so many of them effectively. You're going to have select conversations. So for us, it was, what do those touches need to look like? And then what are the quality of those touches, right down to what are the words that we're using, and is it print? What's the frequency? Is it not in print but type? An email form would be that. and video forms, reporting. Long and short of it, there's a real art to how we're going to connect, how often we're going to connect in terms of frequency and what content we're going to put in front of people. Hope that answered your question.
With
Complex.
especially with a digital company, how do you stay relevant? How do you keep your finger on the pulse?
I think what I'm hearing, all points come back to the same thing. The same point. What I'm thinking of two things is the culture and our team, and the other one are our clients. I think you ask, how do I keep my thumb on the pulse of with the companies that we work with? It's our job to be students of the digital world or the digital space that we're in almost in a real time basis anymore. So we have internal teams, and those teams will have different competencies within the services that we provide, and then they collaborate. So they collaborate within teams and then cross teams, and that way we can scale more information more broadly through the organization. We're less vulnerable should we lose one of those seats. But then again, it's because time is so compressed into real time now. We need to stay. That's our system for staying sharp, and then we have to pair it up again in what does quality communication with the intent to connect with our clients look like, and we kind of already went over that one. Yeah, good questions, guys.
So with digital marketing always evolving with AI, data privacy, and new platforms, how's Summit Media Solutions positioning itself to stay ahead of that curve?
Rinse and repeat, really the last answer. We have to show up, or last several answers. We have to show up. We have to be really on point. We need to be organized. We need good people in the seats. They need to have their heads and hearts in the right place. We really need to guard after culture. So that's probably the biggest thing we have to do of all the answers I've already given you to tie this one together is if we keep people that work at Summit, their heads and their hearts on the purpose of why they're there, we'll really figure out everything else at a higher level and problem solve at a higher level, communicate at higher levels. That's the glue.
All right. Thank you for joining us, Todd.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm Brian Fierce.
I'm Gage Creaky.
And this has been the Hall Pass Summer School.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.